Good morning, Curtis Chandler here, President of PFL, bringing you this week's North American rail, energy, and macro update. Starting with the markets, the Dow gained 238 points on Friday of last week, closing at 46,758 points, which was up 510 points week over week. In overnight trading, Dow futures are expected to open higher from Friday's close. In the energy space, WTI closed at $60.88, up 40 cents per barrel on Friday of last week, but down $4.84 per barrel week over week. WTI futures are poised to open higher this morning. North American rig count was unchanged week over week, with U.S. at 549 active rigs and Canada at 190 active rigs. We are down 69 rigs year over year. Alberta Premier Daniel Smith announced last week that the province would commit $14 million to propose a new $1 million barrel per day pipeline out to BC's coast. However, the project immediately faced political opposition. Go figure. Meanwhile, Canadian left-wing Prime Minister Mark Carney escalated the climate finance agenda last Thursday, directing financial regulators to develop mandatory climate risk capital requirements for Canadian banks. This forces lenders to hold more capital against loans to high carbon sectors, making such financing more expensive. Here in the U.S., Diamond Rock CEO Travis Stice warned U.S. shale producers will stall if crude prices remain at $60 a barrel. Diamondback cut its 2025 capex by $500 million. The big story in rail last week is the North American rail sector was fundamentally reshaped by an activist-driven leadership change at CSX. On Wednesday of last week, CSX announced immediate departure of its current CEO and appointed Steve Angle, former CEO of Linde. Angel's compensation agreement includes a provision that would triple his salary in the event of change in control, strongly suggesting the board is preparing for a merger. Meanwhile, the UP-NS merger battle intensified as the American Chemistry Council and Rail Customer Coalition voiced concerns, and the BN issued a public call for shippers to speak out against the deal. We did attend last week's SWARS conference in Phoenix. 603 participants were there. UP's Kenny Rochter was very upbeat about UP-NS merger, setting only 4 overlaps in service across the network. Based on industry chatter and presidential support, it appears as though the merger will go through. The Port of Los Angeles announced plans for Pier 500, a new terminal that could take up to 10 years to complete and will put more pressure on rail connections. Due to the government shutdown, we were unable to report last week's rail traffic data. On Tuesday of last week, the STB proposed a rule to modernize how Class 1 railroads report performance. The key takeaway last week is that merger mania is reshaping the rail landscape while energy infrastructure politics continue creating transportation bottlenecks with crude prices under pressure and regulatory uncertainty mounting. Rail transport maintains its flexibility but not cost. For the latest and greatest on what is for sale or for lease, please contact us at PFL. Remember, we clean, flare, service, and store rail cars across North America. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week with another update on what's moving the North American rail and energy markets. Make sure you read this week's rail report where we expand on what I've talked about here today. We have a lot of charts, graphs, and tables for your viewing pleasure. Please pass the report on to friends and colleagues. PFL's Rail Report and other reports have been and always will be free. We do it all for you folks. Well, have a great, safe week out there, and we will talk to you next Monday.